So I do a lot of lists, and I do a lot of rankings and videos and all that sort of thing, and I just have discussions with people during streams and in video comments and stuff like that, and on Twitter. And basically, if you know anything about me, you probably know that I love antagonists and villains, and characters like that, characters who oppose the protagonists of the story. Now, I have made a point when talking about them to differentiate between what a villain is and what a antagonist is, and people sometimes ask me what I mean by that. So I figured I'd just put out this short little video to sort of explain this as a bit of a resource and just to get it out there, and just to sort of riff on it a little bit. It's pretty simple. I think an antagonist is any character, regardless of morality isn't a factor here, who opposes the main protagonist or the protagonistic cast of a story. I think there are also some permutations to this. It can also be a character that antagonizes, I think, in some cases, the themes of the work, even if they don't necessarily antagonize or oppose the specific characters that are on our protagonistic side. So I think there are some examples of characters who may be allied with the protagonist, but who actually might be an antagonist regardless, and I think a good example of that is Flock from Attack on Titan. Now, there are lots of reasons why I think he's an antagonist. The main one is because he opposes the energy and spirit and themes of Attack on Titan, and he also opposes our other protagonistic cast of Mikasa, Armin, Jean, etc. But one could also argue he's allied with Eren, so he's not an antagonist. But no, he absolutely is, because there are permutations, there are variables. So yeah, an antagonist is a character that opposes the themes of the protagonist, or the themes that a story espouses or endorses or champions, or opposes the protagonist or the protagonistic cast. That's what an antagonist is. A villain can be an antagonist, and often those overlap, but a villain doesn't necessarily have to be an antagonist. Neither does an antagonist have to be a villain. A villain is very different to me from an antagonist, in that essentially it's a character that is kind of passes a threshold of morally reprehensible in a lot of ways, who does something that is just incredibly morally bad, or is so persistent in their antagonism that it kind of crosses a line and goes into villainy. But a lot of the times, I think that a villain of a story need not at all coincide with antagonism. For example, Light Yagami is one of my favorite examples of this. Light Yagami is a protagonist. He's our lens through the story. He's the person we see the story through the eyes of. He is our point of view. Light Yagami is the protagonist of Death Note. But he's also, I think, a villain because of the effect that he has on the setting and on the characters, and because of his morals and the way he goes about things. I'm not really, if you don't think he's a villain and we have differing views on the character, that's not really what this is about, but this is just, you get my point, right? This is just my example. Whereas L, who a lot of people tend to look at more favorably in terms of morality, is nonetheless an antagonist because he opposes the protagonist. So you get what I mean? A villain, just to me, has an overall significantly negative impact on the setting or story that they're in due to incredibly skewed morals, or amorality, or a lack of morals, and just maybe they do evil things, maybe they are evil, that sort of thing. But they don't need to be an antagonist at all. They can sometimes be protagonists. They can sometimes be deuteragonists. I think there are evil characters, or characters who I would consider villains, who don't really have either role. So yeah, whereas an antagonist just opposes the protagonist, and a great example of that is the characters in Haikyuu. None of them are villains. These are sweet, beautiful souls. The vast majority of these characters, if not all of them, who are, in high school or college age in some cases. None of them are villains, none of them are morally bad people, but they are antagonists because, due to the nature of a sports story, they need to oppose the protagonist. We're literally facing off against them, and they're trying to stop us from achieving our goal. They oppose us, so they are antagonists. But they're not villains. They're not villains. They don't do morally reprehensible stuff. Whereas a villain doing a morally reprehensible thing, who does those things, it's neat and tidy that it naturally lines up with antagonists, and they're often one and the same, but not always. So I think there are lots of examples of characters that are antagonists, but don't quite pass that threshold of villainy for me. Lots of Hunter x Hunter characters, you get my meaning. Antagonists are characters who oppose the protagonists, or the primary themes of the work, or both. Oftentimes it's both. Villains are characters that are just reprehensible human beings who do horrific things, who are monsters, but they need not be antagonists. They might not necessarily oppose the protagonist's point of view. Sometimes they are the protagonist. They often have evil or near evil motives, they do horrible things, that sort of thing. And that's about it. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple distinction. So yeah, just thought I'd put this out there. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, or because you've talked to me, a lot of you guys, or you thought this on your own. This isn't anything new, and I'm not trying to make it seem like it is, but just in case anyone was ever curious about this. Even if you don't necessarily agree with my examples, because some things to do with the examples I've put forth are a bit interpretive, and I get that. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.